Chapter 8: The Vicious Stepmother. June, Bajia village. The sky was overcast and sultry with no wind. A few women were sitting on the sandals under the big locust tree in the village, enjoying the soles of their shoes and chatting away. Have you heard? What? Sue from the Bashitang family fell down early this morning and hit the back of her head on the door frame. I heard that this person was not very good at that time. I guess he has died by now. TSK, is this something that even God can't bear to look at? No, you have received retribution. You are beaten or scolded at home all day long, and you are whipped with wicker sticks at every turn. Look at Shrilyu and the others, how can one of them not be injured? A child who is only a few years old is being punished by the world. They work on the ground and cook, and the children are not as tall as the stove. Even if they do this work, they don't give enough food. Each of the 4 children is very thin and small. The eldest Shrilyu is 9 years old this year. Come on, she's not as tall as my 8-year-old Mihuya. I've never seen such a black-hearted stepmother. That's right, at the beginning, I didn't just fall in love with Bai Shitang, who has no parents and can make money by walking escorts outside, so I accidentally tripped someone into the river, so I decided to marry him. Now, because Bai Shitang is outside, she was killed by someone who had robbed her, and since she had no money at home, she took it out on her children all day long. She didn't even think about it. It was all her fault that she had gotten to this point. It is said that evil people will be rewarded by nature. It is a good death for the Su family, and the 4 Shrilyu sisters will have a way to survive in the future. Isn't it? It's not good. Shrilyu Nyang opened her eyes. Some children were running around in a panic, shouting at the top of their lungs. The women looked at each other, their expressions a little gloomier than the sky at that moment. It seems that God is still blind. Boom! The sound of thunder came from far too near, followed by gusts of wind, causing the big locust trees to sway. Seeing that the heavy rain was coming, everyone hurriedly returned home, collecting clothes, noodles and other things that were hanging in the yard, and calling for the children who were running wild outside to come back and take shelter from the rain. The big raindrops fell quickly and became denser and denser, like beads with broken strings. Suddenly encountering such a heavy downpour, the old and dilapidated houses were leaking and making a dripping sound. When a drop of rain seeped out from the cracks in the tiles, it fell on the tip of Sumulan's nose. The slight chill made her more and more awake, knowing that as a regional director, she encountered a plane crash on the way to attend a business meeting, as well as everything in front of her. These are not dreams, but the actual situation she is facing now. Time travel, widow, stepmother. Focus on the evil stepmother who treats her stepchildren harshly. At the beginning, I gained the identity of such a top villain, but in the days to come, it's a big deal. Sumulan held her forehead and sighed, wanting to drink some water to calm down her shock. She reached out and picked up the chipped porcelain teapot on the old table. Only then did she realize that the teapot was completely empty, so she had to put it down again. The coarse porcelain pot is not light in weight. Sumulam was in a trance because she had just arrived, so the pot slipped a little and fell heavily on the table with a bang sound. This sound made the 4 little carrot heads shiver in shock, and they subconsciously hid in the corner. The first girl, the oldest and tallest girl, walked over quickly, biting her lip. Mom, I forgot to boil the water. Don't be angry. I'll boil the water right now. The last part of his voice was trembling, and he was obviously very frightened, but because he was thinking about his younger brothers and sisters and was afraid that they would be beaten, he had to stand up and accept the words and do the work. Chapter 2. Mom, what's going on? Sumulam looked at the little girl in front of him. This is the eldest daughter in the family, 9-year-old Bai Shrilyu. She is usually the most diligent and does the most work, but she is also the one who gets the most beatings from her original owner. At this moment, there is a red and swollen mark on the left cheek, which was slapped by the original owner with a willow stick. As Bai Shrilyu spoke, he was about to go to the kitchen. Wait a minute. Sumula stopped her. It's almost noon today. I think we'd better just make lunch. Okay, I'll go right away. Without being scolded, Bai Shuiliu was surprised and pleasantly surprised. He hurriedly raised his hand to greet Bai Lixia. The second-ranked 8-year-old, Lixia, come and help me light the fire. The four of you find some pots and pans and other things, and catch the leaking water in the house. The rain will probably fall for a while. If you don't catch it, the bedding will be soaked and you won't be able to sleep at night. Sumulam rolled up the sleeves on her arms and rolled up her pants to her calves. I'm going to cook. After saying that, he found a somewhat worn bamboo hat in the house, put it on his head, passed through the rain curtain, and went to the thatched stove nearby. Bai Shuiliu, who was stunned on the spot, didn't come back to his senses for a long time. 7-year-old Bai Jue carefully tugged on Bai Shuiliu's sleeve. Sister, what's wrong with mother? I don't know. Bai Shuiliu shook his head. I feel. It seems like a different person. But the person is still the same person, right in front of his eyes, and it is impossible to become another person. Bai Shuiliu suppressed his thoughts and did not say the remaining half of the sentence. Sister, I'm afraid. Bami Dou, who is also 7 years old, the only male in the family and the youngest, reached out and wiped away his tears. Yesterday, when he went to collect eggs, he accidentally slipped and fell. One of the eggs in his hand fell to the ground and broke into pieces. 10 fingers were pricked by needles. Now his hands are still red, swollen and painful. It hurts. They say that men don't shed tears easily, but Bai Midu's tears at this time were because of pain and fear, and she couldn't stop them no matter what. Not afraid, not afraid. Bai Shuiliu hugged his youngest brother and patted his back gently. Eldest sister is here. You three should cheer up later and don't let your mother pick on the wrong things, lest you make your mother unhappy and get beaten again. Although Sumula seemed to have behaved much gentler and like a normal person just now, Bai Shuiliu still felt unsure. I'll go to the kitchen to help light the fire. You three should quickly do as your mother said and look for bowls, pots, and some water. Yeah. The remaining 3 little carrot heads nodded and hurriedly looked for things to use. Bai Shuiliu thought for a while, then rolled up his trousers and walked to the kitchen. Sumulam in the kitchen is busy making lunch. There is not much food and drink at home, even a small half bag of white flour, only half a jar of stick noodles and sweet potato noodles, and no rice. Sumulam thought for a while, scooped out half a scoop of stick noodles, half a scoop of sweet potato noodles, and a little white flour from the cracked noodle vat, and mixed them together to form a dough. When the mixed dough is kneaded and becomes firmer and tougher, put the mixed dough there to wake up for a while, then put it on the baking rack, squeeze it directly into dough and put it into the pot. Over there, Sumulam was awake and washing the vegetables that Bai Shuiliu and the others had picked in the morning. Bai Shuiliu walked into the kitchen in the rain and was stunned when he saw that Sumulam had already begun to choose yinging vegetables. Episode 3 It's Not a Dream. When I saw the obviously heavy dough on the chopping board, I became even more dumbfounded. Mom, do you want to eat noodles at noon? Bai Shuiliu boldly asked. Yeah. Sumulam nodded, but without a moment's hesitation in his hand movements, he picked out the leaves of yinging kai very neatly, put them in a wooden basin, and pushed them into the yard. In an era without industrial pollution, rainwater from the sky was cleaner than well water. It was convenient to use local materials, and it also avoided having to go to the only well at the entrance of the village to carry water back when the water tank was empty. Sumulam answered naturally, but Bai Shuiliu was a little uncertain and asked tentatively, have you done all of this? Certainly. In other words, this glutinous rice noodles is not just for Sumulam alone, but also for the 4 of them. But even after receiving an affirmative answer again, Bai Shuiliu's face was still full of disbelief. Sumulam went into the kitchen to cook, which was already a rare thing when the sun hit the west. At noon, the 4 of them were not allowed to eat vegetable dumplings or drink vegetable leaf soup. Instead, they were allowed to eat fried noodles, which were still so big. Portion. Bai Shuiliu reached out and pinched the back of his hand. The back of the hand still retains the wound that Sumulan used to pull out with a wicker when Sumulam woke up due to too much noise while cooking. Now it hurts when touched. Since it hurts, what is happening is not a dream. But what's going on? Shuiliu, help me put some fire in the stove. Sumulam put the washed yinging vegetables on the chopping board and cut it twice. Oh, okay. Bai Shuiliu came back to her senses, squatted in front of the stove, and stuffed some of the dead branches into the stove. The flames in the stove suddenly became much bigger, licking the dark bottom of the pot. Bai Shuiliu took advantage of his free time to secretly take a look at the surprising blue hematoxylin today. At this moment, Sumulam was taking out the iron shelf from the corner. Since it had not been used for a long time, a lot of ash fell on it. Seeing this, Sumulam scooped up a lulle of water and carefully brushed the top with a broom made of dyed sorghum ears, and then put it on the stove. After the ironing rack is fixed and the water in the pot is almost boiling, put the dough into the cylinder on the rack and press the upper handle firmly, and the long and thin noodles will fall into the pot. After the noodles are pressed and cooked, put some yinging vegetables in, sprinkle some salt, and the noodles are ready. Because of the addition of sweet potato noodles, the noodles are a little black, but the advantage is that the emerald green of yinging vegetables has a hint of purple, and the color can also increase appetite. It is a pity that the color is gone, but because the condiments in the kitchen are only there is salt, so the taste is really bad. Sumulam thought for a while, scooped out a little cooked oil from a small jar in the kitchen, and poured it into the pot. With the oil flowers, this baked noodles has some fragrance, and it smells much better than before. Scooping some soup to taste the saltiness, Sumulam took a few large cracked porcelain bowls from the shelf next to her. While scooping the noodles into the bowls, she said to Bai Shuiliu, "Go call the XIA and the others. Let's eat." Okay. Bai Shuiliu was still confused. He looked outside and suggested, "Now that the rain has stopped, let's eat in the yard. It'll be cool." The rain just came and went quickly. After such a downpour, the water on the ground would quickly flow away and there would be no more mud. And indeed, as Bai Shuiliu said, it had rained before. It's very cool in the yard. Being able to enjoy a moment of coolness in the hot July weather, especially when eating hot noodle soup, can be said to be a very rare treat. Sure. Sumulan nodded, set the table, move the benches and you just wait. Don't come in and serve the bowls. The soup is a bit hot. Don't burn it anymore. I'll bring it out to you later. Good. In the past, I wanted to pour boiling water on their hematoxylin, and I was actually worried that they would be scalded. Bai Shuiliu was a little distracted, so much so that when she left the kitchen door, she staggered. Bai Lixia, Bai Jue, and Bai Midu stood at the door of the main room and looked eagerly towards the kitchen. When they saw Bai Shuiliu coming out of the kitchen, his face was very bad, so they quickly gathered around. "Sister, did my mother hit you again?" Bai Lixia asked. "No." Bai Shuiliu calmed down, looked at the three little carrot heads, paused, and said, "Mother made noodles at noon and asked us to set the table and prepare for dinner." "Hand out noodles?" The three little carrot heads looked at each other and swallowed involuntarily. "Sister, aren't you lying?" Bai Midu rubbed her belly, which was already bulging, and asked, raising her face. "That's right. Are you willing to let us eat glutinous rice noodles?" Bai Jue also expressed doubts. "Really, I saw so many noodles being cooked with my own eyes." Bai Shuiliu said firmly, "Don't talk about it now, bring the bench over quickly, my mother is about to bring the food out." It was a rare opportunity to eat noodles, so a few carrot heads hurriedly helped lift the table and brought stools over. It is said to be a stool, but it is actually an old wooden pile, a pier made of stick leather, etc. It is different in size and height, but it is enough to sit on. In short, by the time Sumulan came out with the ball, the four of them had already packed it away. "This ball is from Shuiliu, this ball is from Lixia, and these two bowls are from bamboo leaves and rice bean. Sumulam shared a portion of the noodles, then served a bowl himself and sat at the table. Before, I guess you guys should be full. If you are still not satisfied and there's no more noodles in the pot, just grab a bowl of noodle soup. She had just observed that these 4 children were all sallow and thin. Based on the memory of the original owner, she knew that they were hungry most of the time. Now they can eat enough. It is best to eat full. If it is stretched, it is easy to accumulate food or overburden the gastrointestinal tract. It is extremely rare to be able to eat glutinous rice noodles. It is still such a big bowl, which is enough to satisfy even if you are not full. The 4 of them nodded their heads, then picked up their chopsticks and started eating. Eat slowly, chew some into pieces, don't swallow it whole, and keep it in your stomach. Seeing that all 4 people were devouring their food, Sumulam reminded, this is just the beginning, there will be more to eat in the future. Is there anything left to eat in the future? What does this mean? The 4 little carrot heads all paused for a moment, and after looking at each other, their doubtful eyes finally fell on Sumulam. What do you mean, can we still eat noodles at night? Bhai Mdo couldn't hold back and asked boldly. After asking, he immediately regretted it. He was afraid that what he said was inappropriate and made Sumulam unhappy. He would be beaten again, so he hurriedly stopped talking, buried his head low, and did not dare to look at Sumulam. No, Sumulam looked at Bhai Mdo and replied. Sure enough. It's just a meal. The hopes that were so easily raised were all dissipated in one fell swoop. But thinking about it, I have never had a full stomach before, and I have been used to it for so long. It is already good to have a full meal this afternoon, so I happily eat the delicious bowl in front of me. Tao brand. After all, the noodles are a bit hard and I can't digest them if I eat them at night, so I'd better make pancakes and cook the batter for the sticks. Sumulam added. Stick the pancakes and eat the batter on the sticks. The chopsticks in Bhai Shuliu's hand fell to the ground with a bang. The other 3 little carrot-headed ones were also staring with big eyes and small eyes. They were so shocked that they forgot to swallow the food in their mouths. Sumulam swallowed the food in her mouth and looked at the 4 stunned children in front of her. As for eating in the future, if this family is rich, they will eat better. If they live a tight life, it's a bit rough, but it will still satisfy you. I will also think more about ways to make you live a good life with better food and warmer clothes. But there is one thing. You have to listen to me and do whatever I tell you. Just remember, I just want to make our life better. Sumulam didn't want to say too much about her change of temperament and the previous evil deeds of the original owner. She only briefly stated her thoughts to let the 4 of them know her future plans. But he did not forget to give these 4 children a warning, because he was afraid that the spring had been pressed so hard before, and now he suddenly let go and the spring flew away. As for the 4 of them accepting and adapting to her temperament and behavior at this time, and whether they will truly believe in her in the future. Lu Yao knows that horsepower has gradually gained popularity over time. Sumulam feels that it is better to leave this kind of matter to time. It is useless to talk more at this time. The 4 of them, Bhai Shuliu, already nodded hurriedly when they heard the words, being able to have enough food and clothing. We listen to mother. Bhai Shuliu, the leader, hurriedly expressed his position. Yes, we listen to mother. We will do whatever mother tells us to do. The remaining 3 also agreed. In the past, I had to be obedient, so that I would not dare to go east or west, and I would make the dog dare not chase the chicken. But in the end, I had to be beaten all day long because I didn't have enough to eat. Now, as long as I am obedient, I can have enough food, clothing and warmth, and also be beaten. Of course, they would like to be spoken to in a harmonious voice. It's just that this willingness, you don't have to think about it, is just to avoid being beaten and to save your life. It is definitely not because of your belief in or closeness to Sumulam. Sumulam understood and didn't force it. She just picked up the chopsticks and put the food into her mouth. Eat quickly. After eating, take advantage of the rain to cool down and go to the stick field to pick some grass. At this time, the stick seedlings in the ground have grown to more than half a person's height, and the grass is growing like crazy. It has just rained, the weather is not hot, and the ground is wet, making it easier for the grass to be pulled out. Okay. The 4 children agreed simply. The glutinous rice noodles went down quickly, and Sumulam felt full. Bashui Leo and the 4 of them also burped, but it was rare for them to eat such a full meal. At this moment, they couldn't bear to put down their bows, and each went to the pot to scoop out half a bowl of noodle soup to satisfy their lingering gluttony. After everyone put down the dishes, Sumula spoke again. Jue and Midu will tidy up the tables and stools. In Lixia, you sweep the yard. Shuiliu will help wash the dishes, and I'll wash the pots. Everyone should do something within their capabilities and share their due responsibilities. This is the purpose of Sumulan's work and management. The 4 little carrot heads also started to get busy obediently. With more people and strength, the chores after the meal were quickly settled. Taking advantage of the fact that the clouds in the sky had not cleared away and there was still a bit of cool breeze, Sumulam led 4 people, holding shovels, bamboo baskets and other things, to the stick field. Went. Because the Bashitang family works as a ***** to make money, they don't care much about reclaiming wasteland. The family only has 6 acres of land, 2 of which are sloping land that cannot store water, and the soil quality is still a bit bad. In Shah, we can only grow sweet potatoes, but we are afraid that it would be wasteful to plant only one sweet potato crop in this easily cultivated wasteland, so we plant sweet potatoes in spring and autumn. However, the soil is not fertile enough and the sweet potatoes do not grow big enough. However, sweet potatoes are a crop that does not require much management and are not prone to pests. As long as there is no severe drought, you can harvest some. And the sweet potato seedlings are grown by yourself, which can be said to be almost zero cost, even if the land is empty. As much as you can collect is considered to be a lot. Because of this, most of the energy is spent on the remaining 4 acres of land. There are many people in the family, and they need a lot of food. In addition to the winter wheat, the 4 acres of land are planted with relatively high-yielding cobs. This year, because of the good weather, the cob seedlings are growing very strong. Sumulan didn't stop when he got to the field. He followed the sticks one by one and picked up all the lush grass growing in the gaps between the sticks. The 4 of them, Bai Shuiliu and Bai Shuiliu, also got into the stick field one by one and started working. The weather is cool, and there are a lot of people out to work now. The fields are close to each other. Of course, the neighbors have seen Sumulan leading the 4 people of Bai Shuiliu to work. That is from the Bai Shitang family? Someone rubbed his eyes in surprise. The people next to her raised their heads and looked at them. Really, this is really rare. This Su lady is lazy at home all day long. Shui Liu used to do all the work in the fields, but this time she actually went to work in the fields. I don't know if the sun has risen from the west or if this person has changed his mind. It's really hard to say. At noon, I went to call my Juji back for dinner. When I passed by her house, I saw her leading her children to eat glutinous rice noodles in the yard. Even the rice and beans bowl was full of glutinous rice noodles. Hey, this time when the 4 children didn't have enough to eat, the bowl said it was rice soup, but there was only soup, and not even half a grain of rice could be seen. This time, Mrs. Su was so generous. She really told her sister-in-law that she had changed her mind. Sex. Why are you changing your temper? A dog can't change its habit of eating shit, so why do you expect her to become a good person? A harsh voice sounded, with deep disdain in her tone. The 2 women who were chatting turned around and looked at Mrs. Jung with a lukewarm tone. His aunt, you can't say that. This person will change. If he really gets better, it can be considered a good thing. If Sumulam is disliked by others because of his harsh treatment, then Jung, who likes to gossip in the village, is equally disliked. Mrs. Jung pretended not to notice the indifference between the two people and curled her lips. This ****** is doing a show here. If you don't believe it, just open your eyes and take a look. While talking, Mrs. Jung strode to the Sumulam family's land, put her hands on her hips and shouted, "Bai Shitang family, what are you doing here? La 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 la, a new book is released, please vote for recommendation, please collect, please invest ~0. Sumulam, who was hunched over picking grass, heard the noise and straightened up. Come and pick grass while it's cool. Is there anything wrong with sister-in-law Jung? Cleaning grass? I think you are here for show. Who wouldn't know that you have never touched the earth every day? Today, you eagerly come here to pick grass. Do you want to do something bad? Let me tell you, often if you dare to hit Shuiliu and the others again, the village will not tolerate you. Mrs. Jung put her hands on her hips and drank a lot. Sumulam threw a handful of grass into the bamboo basket next to her, looked at Miss Jung in front of her, and blinked. The best, alive. After shaking some remaining rainwater from the roots of the stick leaves and washing the mud from the weeds on her hands, Sumulam lowered her eyelids and spoke quietly, I come to the fields to weed. Sister-in-law Jung said I am acting. If I stay at home, I guess sister-in-law Jung will say that I am lazy and won't go out to work. Then I don't know what I should do. Sister-in-law Jung said something about me spanking the child again. If you say this, you can help stop me from spanking the child again. But I am just picking grass here right now. If you open your mouth, I will come. You must not be concerned about saving face. With your usual temper, you will definitely beat the child to vent your anger when you go back. Then this is interesting. Sister-in-law Jung, are you warning me not to spank the child, or are you thinking of annoying me and asking me to go back and beat him even more? More harsh. Jung was stunned when he heard this, and his face changed. This Sumulam used to beat and scold children, but he is also a typical domestic bully. He does not dare to provoke others outside, but only dares to go back and cause trouble for Bai Shuiliu and the other four. This time Sumulam not only responded in person, but also completely hit her mark. Jung's face suddenly turned red. What are you doing there? It's all your own imagination. That's not what I meant. We are all from the village, and there is no hatred. Why should I want the children of the evil-hearted Shuiliu? You are such a vicious queen, why would you want to blame others for anything? I remember. Sumulam raised her head, looked at Mrs. Jung, thought for a while, and whispered slowly and quietly, Sister-in-law Jung's family asked someone to propose marriage to Mai Shitang in the early years. Boom! Jung's brain suddenly exploded. In the past, this Bai Shitang was the most handsome person in Bajia village. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes. Not only was he tall, he even had a bit of elegance and elegance. He was not at all like those rough guys who farmed all day long. What's rare is that Bai Shitang respects his parents, is kind to others, and can also earn money by working as an escort. It can be said that he is the favorite of the whole Bajia village for marriage. Not to mention the Jung family, in the whole village, no, in the surrounding 10 villages, there must be 8 out of 10 young daughters-in-law who are about the same age as the Jung family. They wanted to marry Bai Shitang before, but it is a pity that Bai Shitang secretly married her. They got married quietly outside and even had several children one after another. Only then did everyone give up their thoughts and it was time to get married. Jung was one of them, but even though she was married to Bai Erniu, she was considered to be a middle-class person in the village, but when she thought about the regret of not marrying Bai Shitang, she felt a little unhappy, so much so that when she saw Bai Shitang's that group of children, and now Sumulanshi, were furious. But this thought was only in her heart, she never said it out loud, let alone showed anything. How did Sumulam, like me, know this and tell it openly? The new book Seedlings Need Care, please vote, collect and comment. Mrs. Jung's face turned a little red. What are you talking about? Who cares about your Bai Shitang? Who hates your family because of this? In the clear sky, You are not afraid of flashing your tongue when you speak. I think you are just trying to trick someone behind your back. You are such a bitch, I should tear that of yours off. I'm telling the truth. Sumulanji looked at Mrs. Jung carefully and enunciated each word very clearly. Sister-in-law Jung, what do you think? It is indeed the truth, and it is the standard truth that conforms to the facts, without even a trace of water being adulterated. In her family, she did have a marriage relationship with Bai Shitang. As for the other things, those are all Jung's own thoughts. And her rebuttals, on the contrary, were not self-provoking, and all her little thoughts were shaken off. If sister-in-law Jung thinks I'm lying, why not call a few people over to ask if this happened in the first place? Sumulam tilted her head. Seeing Sumulam knowingly asking questions, Mrs. Jung suddenly twisted her nose in anger. What a silly question! No matter who you ask about what actually happened, Sumulam is telling the truth. There were many people who had promised to get married to Bai Shitang in the past, and she was not the only one, and it was a common thing for people to talk about getting married but they could not get married. People from the countryside often interacted with each other in several villages, and they all behaved like neighbors. Originally, even if I say it, it won't be a big deal. But if this matter was spread out at the critical moment when she and Sumulam were quarreling here, it would have a different meaning in the eyes of others. I have been married for many years and have a lot of children. I still miss Bashitang and hold a grudge so deeply that I even make things difficult for my wife and children. Farmers have to work hard every day and have no entertainment. This gossip has become everyone's favorite after dinner. It can be said that someone at the head of the village farted. In less than half a day, people at the end of the village will smell it. It tastes good. If Sumulam brushed this off, where would she put her face? At your in-law's house, wasn't it true that someone poked you in the back so hard that you couldn't even stand up? You are so cruel, little bitch. Miss Jung spat angrily. I really forgot how I got married into someone else's family in the past, and I didn't even care about my own moral character. I was shameless and knew how to arrange for others. I didn't have good morals or was shameless in the past, but I still married into the Bashitang family with a legitimate reputation. Sister-in-law Jung should be more careful when speaking in the future, and say less when she shouldn't. Sumulam raised her eyebrows slightly, but then again, it's okay if sister-in-law Jung doesn't pay attention to what she says. The worst thing is that I just don't pay attention to what I say. Since sister-in-law Jung likes to dig up old scores and bring up things from the past, then I'll say it. It's not a big deal, right, sister-in-law Jung? You. Miss Jung choked on Sumulam's words and felt a little tight in her chest. She took several breaths and then stroked her chest, glared at Sumulam hatefully, and left angrily. It was just an interlude. Sumulam didn't take it to heart, and continued to dig up the grass. The four children stared at each other with big eyes and small eyes, and whispered in the gaps between the sticks. Sister, Mrs. Jung, it was Bai Lixia who spoke. Isn't co-writing considered a good one? Although Bai Lixia is only 8 years old, she is still smart. She understood what Sumulam just said. Episode 9. You can't become fat by eating one bite. It was understood that Jung's menacing warning did not seem to be intended to protect the four siblings, but rather to encourage them. I guess so. Bai Shuiliu nodded and sighed at the same time. In the past, Mrs. Jung was not kind to the four sisters, but she could often hear accusations against Sumulam from her mouth. Bai Shuiliu silently labeled Mrs. Jung as a good person. Now it seems that is not the case. Stop talking and get to work quickly. Mom is going to get angry if she listens to our chat. Bai Shuiliu secretly glanced at Sumulam, who had already left the two of them far away, and warned in a low voice. Although Sumulam had given them a full meal at noon today, it was only this time. Thinking about how he used to be beaten or scolded in the past, Bai Shuiliu thought it would be better to be cautious to avoid being beaten. They are the ones who are punished. Especially at this time, she had just had a quarrel with Mrs. Jung, and Sumulam must have been on fire. If she was not careful, she might end up with another willow sliver. After talking to Bai Lixia, Bai Shuiliu was still a little worried and told Bai Jue and Bai Midu, "You should also remember this, talk less and work more." The three siblings understood Bai Shuiliu's intention, nodded hurriedly, and then worked hard to pick it up. Cultivating 4 acres of stick land is not an easy task. Even though Sumula and his 4 children were busy from lunch until the sun went down, with only a short break for a drink of water, it was nothing more than a short break. It is the grass that covers 3 acres of land. There are too many weeds, and those grasses are extremely tenacious. You must not throw them on the ground casually, otherwise they will quickly take root and spread over a large area. You can only transport the grass to the ground in baskets, and also delayed the efficiency of work. However, since this is farm work, you won't become fat if you eat one bite, so it's okay to take your time. With Sumula thinking like this, he grabbed a handful of grass that had just been picked up at the edge of the field and wiped the mud on his shoes and feet, go home first and come back in the morning. The 4 little radishes also wiped the mud from their feet and followed Sumulam home. Sumulan's family had noodles at noon, and every child ate noodles. As well as the fact that she led her children to gather grass in the afternoon, almost everyone in the village knew about it. At this moment, watching Sumulan lead the children back, I couldn't help but take a few glances. The label of the evil stepmother is on her body, and what she is doing now is inconsistent with the original label. It is normal for others to be surprised. Sumulan is also calm. When she meets anyone who greets her, she responds without saying much. In this way, we arrived at home. Poop out some water to wash off all the mud on your body. After washing the rice, beans and bamboo leaves, wash the shovel as well. Clean up the bench and table. At the beginning of summer, you pick 2 cucumbers from the shelf, pull some nepeta leaves, and water willows. Come and help me cook. Sumula said something, and the little carrot heads hurriedly followed it and got busy. Sumulan scooped up the stick noodles, mixed some white flour and sweet potato noodles into it, mixed it with water and started kneading the dough to make the stick noodles and put them on the pancakes. A large iron pot is used to cook stick noodle porridge at the bottom, and pancakes are made on the rim of the pot above. When the pancakes are ready, the porridge will also be ready. It can be said to save time and effort, and is the most common practice among farmers. And just about her and 4 little carrot heads, stuck together in such a circle, would be enough to eat at night. Chapter Thus Do Your Best. Sumulam looked at Beshuiliu, who was concentrating on lighting the fire. Originally, my bones were small, I didn't have enough to eat for a long time, and I didn't have much meat on my body. In addition, because I often did farm work, I could be said to be dark, thin and small. His reflection in the firelight made Bai Shuiliu look even more skinny and skinny. Thinking about how thin Bai Lixia and the others were in the afternoon, with their arms and legs as slender as bamboo poles, Sumulan suddenly felt uncomfortable. Even though this was a sin caused by the original owner, now that she has taken up this identity and therefore has a chance to live again, and she has accepted the title of mother, she must fulfill the responsibilities of this identity. Even if you don't do your best, you still have to do your best. When Sumulam put the last pancake on the pot, he stuck his head out from the kitchen. He just saw the white rice beans and stopped him. "Midu, go to the chicken co-op and see if there are any eggs. If there are any, put them away." To back. As soon as Bai Midu heard that he was about to connect the eggs, he hid behind Bai Lixia in horror. The pain in his fingers just stopped, and he didn't dare to collect the eggs anymore. "Mom, let me collect the eggs." Bai Lixia responded hurriedly, rolled up her trouser legs and was about to jump into the chicken co-op. When Sumula saw this, he remembered the cruel things that the original master had done. He bit his lips and looked at Bai Midong for a long time. He murmured his lips several times but did not say anything. It's useless to talk too much. If you talk too much, it will seem more empty. Let's look at actual actions. Bai Lixia searched the chicken co-ops one by one, brought the eggs she felt to Sumulam, and said cautiously, "Mom, I collected 3 eggs." "Just 3? Sumulam frowned. Yeah, just 3. Lixia trembled, her voice trembled a little, and her head shook like a rattle. Mom, I didn't lie or hide anything. It's not that you are hiding, but 3 eggs are not enough for a child to fit into one hard-boiled egg, so it is not easy to divide them. Forget it, 3 will do. Sumulan didn't want to explain too much, so she just took the egg from Lixia's hand, turned around and went to the kitchen, found a clean bowl, and knocked the egg into the bowl neatly. Inside, I'm going to make scrambled eggs to eat later. The remaining eggshells were given to Lixia, crush them and mix them into rotten vegetable leaves and grass, and feed them to the chickens. Eggshells contain a certain amount of calcium. After chickens eat them, they can replenish their body's nutrition and prevent them from laying soft-shelled eggs. Especially their domestic chickens, which can only eat grass and peck vegetable leaves, are prone to malnutrition. Eat some eggshells. Easy to lay eggs. Lixia took it in a daze and was about to do as Sumula said, but when she saw that there was still a bit of egg liquid stuck to the shell wall inside the eggshell, she pulled bamboo leaf and Mi aside. Stuffed the eggshells to the 2 of them. Quick, you can still take a few licks. Although it was raw, the fishy smell of the eggs was simply unparalleled and wonderful to the white bamboo leaves and white rice beans that had been unable to smell even eggshells for many years. I hurriedly stuck out my tongue to lick them. But he didn't forget to put the other half of the eggshell back into Lixia's hand. There are exactly 4, 1 for each of us. Second sister, you can also taste a little, and leave the rest to the eldest sister. Although they are small, they cannot eat alone, even just a small amount of egg liquid. Lixia felt happy and touched the little heads of the white bamboo leaves and white rice beans. Sumulam, who was beating eggs with chopsticks in the kitchen, saw the movements of the 3 children in the yard and hurriedly asked, "What are you 3 doing?"